Hey Pearls, I've got hubby in another video. Thanks for being on the video, hubby.
You're welcome.
And in today's video, we took questions from you guys on Instagram and are answering your questions that are all about finances, our relationship, and just life in general.
The reason you want to watch is because we're regular people and we did this just like anybody else. So we feel it's relatable. We feel like you can maybe understand how we got to where we are, and maybe some of these ideas can help you get there too.
And when you say we got to this, you're talking about
debt-free.
There you go. Welcome back, Pearls. I'm Brittany and this is my hubby.
I'm Tommy.
And this is Pennies into Pearls, where you can come for inspiration, motivation, and tips to help you create a better life for you and your family without stressing about money. A huge topic that comes along on this channel and on penniesintopearls.com are questions that have to do with relationships and money, because there's a lot of emotion tied to finances, don't you think?
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So we took your questions from Instagram. Thank you so much for submitting them, and we're just gonna dive in. Okay, so the first question, got my computer right here. The first question is, do you guys ever disagree on your goals? If so, how do you work through them? So I have a financial unity workbook, and I'll link it down below. It's totally free, and we kind of have this whole system where we first think about goals separately, right?
Right.
And we think about it in 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year chunks. And then we bring those two worksheets together, and then we, I think, compromise. And being considerate of the other person, putting the other person first before you, is a huge thing.
Well, we look and see, sometimes a lot of them match. We may write different words, but the goal is the same. So it's important that you write them down separately so you guys know what's important for each of you, and then you can kind of figure out what's important for everybody overall. Because sometimes I may want another hot rod, but that's maybe not the most important thing for our family at the time.
Right, prioritizing. Yeah.
So when we have the same goals of what we're looking to accomplish, and it's usually an overall big goal, like I want to buy a house.
Yes. Right?
So to get to that point, you may have to temporarily put some other goals on hold until you get that big one.
Yeah, I think you said it perfect. Having a giant goal, a common goal,
right? Working
towards that together, and then the smaller, maybe more individual goals, that's where you compromise and say like, oh, okay, we'll work on your thing that you're excited about first, and then when the time comes, we'll work on mine. So
yes.
Wonderfully said. Next is, what do you two disagree on the most financially? I don't know. I don't feel like we disagree that much these days on finances because of the way we've set up our goal setting.
But in the beginning, I would say that it was probably, she was more focused on our overall goals, or the big goals, than I was, and maybe I'd want to do something, I don't know, that I thought would be fun, but we maybe didn't have the money to do it. Or we could have money to do it, but then it would just postpone the big goal. But that was in the past. We don't, nowadays we kind of we have the same idea of what we want, and it's always focused on a larger goal.
Yeah. Next question is, how did you two meet?
Well, according to our kids, there was a line of girls outside my apartment in college, and I simply picked the most beautiful in the line, and all the rest of them ran away crying. That's what our kids think.
This is a true story. I don't know how it came to be. Like at dinner time, I feel like it comes up every night, like in the last week. Kennedy asked
and I tell them that they're correct, and that's exactly what happened.
We just feed the lie, and I think it'll be so funny when they're like teenagers and they're like, that one day that it clicks. But actually, the way we met is we were in college. We went to the same college. We lived in the same apartment complex.
Yep. And
more specifically, at our church.
We went to church together.
Yeah, we're in the same like congregation. So that's how we first met in college. When we met, I was a junior.
And I was a freshman.
Yeah.
But I'm older.
Yeah. Right, why? Because you went on a mission. You served a mission for our church for 2 years.
For 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so
postponed
that's why
college.
A little behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we met in college. College sweethearts, that's us. How did you get your husband on board with budgeting? It keeps going back to the goals, right? Goals is a huge thing. I always talk about goal-based budgeting, and now you guys are gonna get a like real life look at why it's so important. So we're gonna talk about it a lot. Just that's the to think.
I felt like too, I finally got sick of not getting any closer to what we wanted to do. So I may have wanted the large goals, but never really felt the drive to work towards them until I was really sick and tired of making the phone call 3 days into a paycheck saying stop spending because we already spent it all. So, and I just got sick of it.
What was the question? How did you get on board with budgeting? Yeah, it really is like, okay, I feel like even the deeper frustration behind that, because I maybe was the one that brought the ideas to the table, but when I started bringing like, hey, like, aren't you tired of this too? Was when we started to really realize that like, okay, we want these big goals for our family. How are we gonna get there?
Right.
And that's what united us. Okay. Next question is your hubby a police officer?
Yep, I'm a fuzz.
He is. City of San Diego. And I know we have a ton of other law enforcement families here, so I love that. And what's your favorite cheap date activity you both love to do alone when you get the chance? Because since we moved up here, we live about 30 minutes outside of like the next biggest city, which is part of the plan. We love it out here. But since we moved here, date nights we were so good before we moved here. We're going once a week.
Yeah.
We had a plethora of babysitting options where we used to live, and now
not much.
Oh, it's so hard. So both our parents live 30 minutes from here. So sometimes that's an option, but we try not to do that more than once a month. And sometimes we don't use them as babysitting at all in a month. But we try to hire young women from our church that are usually around like ages 12 to 17 to babysit, but that's really hard because if they don't drive, we have to drive to pick them up and drive back, then drive to the date and drive back, and then drive to drop the babysitter off and drive back.
It's a lot.
So it's a huge time commitment, and we only have like one babysitter that can drive, so it's been hard. So our favorite cheap date activity, oh, I know one. Going to the beach together.
Yeah.
If we ever have an opportunity, which has only happened a couple times, to go to the beach, just the two of us here in San Diego, it's like...
That's really fun and really nice.
The best.
Very relaxing.
Relaxing time to be together. Okay. How do you coordinate date night? Do you pay for a sitter or use family members? So we kind of have this like unspoken rule that we only use our parents once a month and we flip-flop. So like, let's say this month we are using my parents one time. Next month we'll use his parents one time. Doesn't always work out that way. They don't even know we have that rule, but that's kind of how we try to use it too. And then...
Yes, we pay for a babysitter sometimes.
Yeah.
And we use family members sometimes. Recently, we've had extended family that has needed some extra help, so we've been utilizing like regular babysitters that we pay more often. Mm-hmm. And then we coordinate just like you'd plan anything else. Okay, for this month, when can we go on a date?
It takes a lot of planning.
And we literally we put it on the calendar like it's an event, like pick up the kids from school early or something like that.
And on the first Sunday of the month, we have something in there called our family planning meeting, which like never happens. But the idea is at the beginning of the month, we try to plan our goal is to do one date night where our parents would watch it. Usually that's like where we go to our church's temple once a month. And then we have a separate date night where we pay a babysitter. And we actually have a video, or it's coming out soon, where we share how much we spend on date night. So that'll include like babysitting costs, activity, food costs, all that stuff.
Yes.
When you were in debt, did you keep purchases or credit card accounts a secret? We never had accounts that were a secret.
No. I've always had a little secret stash of money that I usually from flipping stuff from Craigslist or garage sales or something like that. But that money's usually very low amount, and it's usually to buy.
What's a low amount?
Well, I don't know, fluctuates. Maybe $100, sometimes $200 or $300, but it's usually a low amount, and it's usually to buy Brittany a present that she told me I'm not allowed to buy for her.
Right. Same. So, and I don't know, the word secret makes it sound so shady, but like I've done the same thing in the past where I might have like taken on an extra job or sponsorship at work and had a little extra money that I was able to pull. But same thing, it's usually to pay for like a surprise date night or to get a special gift for like a birthday or an anniversary.
All of our main finances and everything are joint accounts. Everyone knows what's going in and what's coming out.
Yeah, other than our like secret birthday money,
Right.
all of our money is combined in an account. How do you work together as a team on the finance/budget stuff? Well,
You just sit down and work through it. It can be emotional, it can be intense sometimes, but you have to remember your goals and what you're working towards as a couple or a team so that you understand where you're trying to go.
yeah.
That's really, and then there's been times where we've talked about finances and it's been a little bit intense, and so then we just take a break and then come back to it later that night or
Yeah.
the next day, because someone may be a little bit more emotional about a goal than another one.
You looked up where you said that.
I mean, we're keeping it real.
I don't know if I've ever really been like emotional about goals. I mean, there's been a couple times where maybe we didn't immediately see eye to eye, like this needs to come first, this doesn't. But when we first got married, we had the advice given to us that if you always put each other first 100%, then you'll both always come out on top. And I think there just has to be a lot of compassion and understanding when you are working through such a high stressful emotional topic. But then also when you do we call them budget dates every 2 weeks, when you are constantly like on top of things or reevaluating and looking at the numbers, then you don't have those big stressful conversations as often, for sure.
Right.
What advice would you give a person, like before you guys were married, things that really helped? So how do you want to answer this question? What advice would you give a person like before you guys are married? So we're thinking you're asking like either giving a couple before they got married or like an individual, like a college student, what I'm thinking.
If it's you by yourself, get yourself on some sort of a plan and routine and goals that you're looking for. And if you're already involved in those plans and goals and you function a certain way, my guess is you're probably going to find someone that's similar to you.
Similar, yeah.
Right? So it's not going to, the transition isn't going to be as hard. If you're talking about like a dating couple, it's the same principles. You have to plan, you have to figure out which goals you want and when you want to achieve them so that everyone understands that. Because if I want to buy a house next year and she doesn't want to buy a house for 10 years, she'll think things are more important to spend money on than I would. It's probably reversed. She probably would want to buy a house in a year and I probably want to buy cars for 10 years. So
I think my advice would be stay away from debt as much as you can.
yes.
That like beginning stage of life, I feel like it's easy to be tempted to go into debt because you see other people buying things and going on trips and that kind of thing, but just stay away from debt. It makes life so much easier. You have so many more options when you're not in debt. And if you can get that started before you are starting a family, you'll be so much further ahead. Okay, next question is, what has been one of the hardest things you've had to go through together? Okay, you say what you think.
No, you say it first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah, you say
and
it
then you'll
first.
say what you truly have in your heart. You're not gonna copy.
I will say what's in my heart.
Okay,
And
I think the hardest thing that we've ever had to go through together is trying to have kids and our first miscarriage.
Yeah.
Is that what you were thinking?
Yep.
Yeah, it was really hard. After we'd been married for a year, we decided we wanted to try to have children. And then we tried for a year, finally got pregnant, had a miscarriage, which was very traumatic.
Yeah.
And like hard on my body. And then it took another 3 years before we actually finally had our first daughter, our first child, our only daughter, Kennedy. And so, yeah, that was for sure lots of tears. And remember that phase of our life, like our finances weren't great either.
No.
So it was just a really stressful, sad.
Intense.
Yeah, so that's the hardest thing.
Definitely.
What's hubby's least favorite part of your debt-free journey?
I would say missing out on some things that I felt I didn't want to miss out when we were really crunching on saving and paying off debt. So, hey, I want to go do this, fill in the blank, like go on a trip or do something fun on the weekend. And we could still do something fun, but that wasn't as expensive, so that we could take that extra $40 or whatever it may be and put it towards being debt free. So while we were doing that, that was probably my least favorite because I'd much rather do something fun than anything else.
Yeah, even though this was directed towards you. I feel like mine is similar.
Directed towards
Yeah, it says what's hubby's hardest thing.
Yeah.
But I think
You don't get it.
I think that it was similar, like fun things, but also like buying things. I'm like, I want to decorate our living room, but
Yeah.
but we did find workarounds, like you said, like we'd find something free to do rather than $40. Or instead of spending money to buy decorations, I would look on the free section in like Craigslist and you know, made the best of it.
Mm-hmm.
Were you both of the same faith when you started dating, or did someone convert?
Same.
Yep.
Same.
We were. That's where we met, mostly was at church. Was there any hesitation at the beginning to be so transparent about your own finances?
I would say so.
Okay.
Just because you feel vulnerable when people know a lot about you and we don't know a lot about you. As much as we'd like to know every single person that follows, we don't. And so I think there was some vulnerability that was a little uneasy, but we don't have anything to hide. So and being as transparent as we are, I think is relatable to people so that they understand that we're doing it just like everybody else.
You know what I think?
What?
I think it's gotten harder to be more transparent. I don't think it was as hard in the beginning because it's like, yeah, we're struggling,
We're broke.
We have no money, we're in debt, here's our journey.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I feel like since we've accomplished that big like milestone and our finances are more solid, we have more income, I feel like it's harder now to share because people coming in at the stage where we were, maybe they feel like they can't relate to us because they see like, sometimes I get comments that are like, oh, nice Apple Watch, not very frugal. And it's like, well, that's the point. We don't want to live scrounging every single day of our entire life. We've worked hard to get to where we are.
And I saved up.
Yeah, let me teach you how to get to this point. And so I feel like it's harder now because people who are coming in at this point and maybe didn't see the journey, they don't get it.
Right. And so for anything that we get, we're gonna save until we have enough money or cash to buy it and then buy it. So her watch was a gift from me that I saved up until I had enough money.
Secret money.
And then bought it. And the Apple Watch has been out for, I don't know, 6 years before I bought one or something like that. It wasn't like new product came out, let me go buy it.
Yeah.
And that's not how we function. We don't just...
It's not a priority to us.
It's very intentional with when and how we spend money.
Yeah. The last question is, how do you handle kids' activities / sports? Any upcoming travel plans? So let's do the kids' activity sports first.
If a kid wants to do something, I think it's important to let them try it. But if they don't want to do it, you fill in the blank, soccer, baseball, any sport, doesn't really matter. Any activity, art class, it doesn't matter. If they don't really want to do it, find something that they want to do. For me personally, I want my kids to do the fun things that I like to do so we can all do them together. But if they're not into it, that's okay. But I think overextending yourself with extracurricular activities just causes undue stress and financial commitments that you don't necessarily need. But if that's what you and your family love to do, I think you should do it. But if it's not, don't do it.
Yeah, if it's your priority. And for us, we're finding when we fill our schedule to the brim, it's too much for our family. We get stressed, the kids aren't happy. But with that said, like I still think we both talked about like there's a lot to learn when you have like organized sports and activities. So it's just like this balancing act. So this fall we chose not to do fall soccer, though we're trying to figure out what activities our kids maybe want to do this spring. And I'm liking the nothing in fall because fall is
busy.
Already a super crazy schedule, back to school and all the holidays, and there's so many like back to school activities, like it's just too much for us. Spring, I'm excited to see Mav in sports because he's so competitive, he's coordinated. Like I think he's gonna love it. We'll see what Oliver wants to do. I think he had fun with soccer. I don't know if he loved it. Kennedy wants to do dance or maybe art, so we'll see.
It's good to have your kids involved in working with a team, learning how to win, learning how to lose. coping with all of those things, because they're all life skills that you need when you're an adult.
And we do have a savings fund for kids' extracurricular activities like sports registration and stuff. But we don't contribute to it regularly. I just kind of like, sometimes if we have an extra $100 one month or something, I'll throw it into that. And then, do we have any upcoming travel plans? So we did already do a video on our 2020 goals. Talks about it a little bit in there, and I'll link it. But what are some of our big wishes for travel this year?
We're taking the whole family to Disneyland, right?
That's the plan, hopefully
That's the plan.
in the fall.
Yep, so we got to save up for hotels and tickets. And
You don't remember?
no, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Couple trip
just the
to
two of
Mexico. We've never been to like the resort type places in Mexico.
And since
I'd
we
go to
live in-
Mexico as a kid, but that was it.
Since we live in San Diego, the like travel time to get there would be minimal, which is great for having to cover a babysitter.
Right.
For the kiddos, but that's like our two big things. And then summertime we do things like beach camping, which again is like an hour from here, or we want to do an RV trip. I don't know, a lot of it just depends on how the finances go the first part of this year, so we'll see. That's the plan.
Yep.
Priorities: Disneyland,
Couples
Mexico, RV trip. That would be it. Okay, so those are your questions answered. I loved doing this one. Did you have fun doing it?
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. And if you guys have any other questions, leave them in the comments, and maybe we'll do another one.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Thanks for watching, you guys. Don't forget to check all the links in the description box. There's going to be a lot of articles down there and videos that we referenced in this video that I think will be really helpful for you guys. Lots of free printables too. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.